This is Emelefon Noel Oge of Let Us Farm. So, if you're watching me today for the first time, this is Let Us Farm page. And what we do here is we discuss practical solutions to our agric problem. So, this video today, I'm doing it on a request by a farmer who asked that I should please explain how new farmers can be able to understand what involves how to recuperate their money. In other words, he's asking for calculation of loss and profit when starting a fish farm. So that's what we're going to look at today, and I will do that in a second. Yes, so if you are starting a farm, or if you have your farm before, you just put in let me give you an example. Just put in $100 after sales, you see $110 and stuffs like that, and you actually think these are profits and everything. Now I want to break it down for you how to understand if you are making profit 2 3 years down the line, or 2 3 cycle down the line. So we may not finish this topic today, but there will be a follow-up, so that if you have anything on what I'm going to say today, then in the subsequent follow-up I can keep explaining that. So today I want to start with when you actually start your farm first. Now, as a farmer, not just a farmer, as a businessman, there is what we call capital investment. Capital investment is the initial capital you put down to start any investment, just like the name comes, capital and investment. For instance, if you want to start a company, you're going to build structures, you're going to buy machines. These are your capital investments. Now, to fish, if you want to start fish farming, you're going to have a pond, even if it is 18 pond or tarpaulin pond. Either you rent or you buy. These are your capital finances. Now, in proper accounting, even the government understands that there is going to be a capital investment. So the amount you use for this capital investment, if it was government, they have what you call capital allowance. So capital allowance means that you will not be taxed for the amount that you lay down for this thing. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years, depending on where, country and everything. Everybody have his own laws and rules. Then for you as the farmer, because I want us to understand it very, very clear. For you as a farmer, when you start, that money you use to buy your pond, to buy other equipment like the water pump and other things that you are using, the net and all these things, they form this capital allowance. So if you want to start, you have to, if there are things that are running for you, for like, let me give an example. If you are buying, let's use a tarpaulin pond, you have to break down the expenses of this tarpaulin pond for at least 2 years. After 2 years, any money on that tarpaulin pond again, you don't need to remove it. Let me rephrase. What I'm trying to say is this: if, for instance, you use 100,000 to buy a tarpaulin, remove it. Let me rephrase. What I'm trying to say is this: if, for instance, you use 100,000 to buy a tarpaulin, what it simply means is that your first year, from January to December in a year, you remove 50,000. That is the expenses on that tarpaulin. The second year, you remove another 50,000, making it you've removed your 100,000 expenses you used in buying this tarpaulin. Why I'm saying this is that most farmers get confused. There was somebody I was trying to explain it to, that you look, if you invest money in starting your fish farm, on the first cycle, you are not supposed to get all your money that you have spent, meaning that you are not supposed to get all your capital investment at your first cycle. Now, if you understand this very well, you will understand that even if you rent a pond for 1 year, because it's a 1 year duration, it means that the cost of rentage, if you are doing 2 cycles in that year, will be removed. First 6 months, second 6 months, one solid year. That's your capital investment. Now, you have other things that you may have incurred in this capital investment. Like I said, you can have pumping machine, you can have your net, fishing net, and things like that. But however, there are some that will not be termed capital investment. Like you have another expenses called your overhead. This overhead is your running cost. This overhead is the cost of buying fuel to put in that machine to pump water. So those type of expenses, you have to remove it at the first harvest. That is, each harvest you do, you remove those expenses. Why are they overhead? They are overhead because they are the expenses that you do every time to maintain that farming. Now, there are other expenses that you will also remove. They also include cost of feeding the fish. They are part of your overhead expenses. Now, you may have workers. Cost of those laborers are also your overhead. Now, you may have workers. Cost of those laborers are also your overhead expenses. Now, in the cost of feeding, you buy the fish, it's also an overhead expenses. There may be additional cost. Maybe something happened and you bought a treatment and used. They are also part of your overhead expenses. Now, another expenses that people don't factor in, but is also very key, is you may be transporting yourself to that farm. It is also part of your overhead expenses, because that transport you do on a daily basis or weekly basis to go and supervise or anything is meant for that particular circle. So it is not part of your capital expenses. There could be other unforeseen expenses that may occur, but if these expenses are not directly related to that farming activity, it doesn't form part of overhead expenses. Now, the major reason why I am trying to do this is some people don't understand what it means to make profit. So, by the time you start up your farm, all those things that you buy that will outlast a particular section, that is a continuous things that you are going to use to keep running the farm, they are your capital expenses. So what you simply do, you write them down, write these expenses down. Now, the overhead, which are your feeding, if you have a staff, your transport, the money you use in buying the fish, the money you use to buy the fuel to power the water pump. And probably there are times you get, like if you're using eating pond, you may want to harvest your fish. You pay those guys that will help you to harvest the fish. You may want to rent a fishing net and all those things. Those ones, those ones now will form part of your overhead. So by the time you now stock your fishes and make sales, so after your sales, what you will do is this: you remove the total expenses you use for this your normal recurring expenses while running the business. That's those your day-to-day expenses, like I said, which include the feeding, the cost you use in buying days, as the case may be. You divide it, and part of it is what you remove. The remaining money forms your profit. I don't know if we really understand. So what we're going to do is, all these items, we'll keep itemizing them and explaining further so that we understand. But so far, what I have said now, I will need to get a feedback to know how really we understand it. Because this is very, very crucial to doing business. You don't need to be flipping money from 10 naira, 15 naira, 20 naira and back. No. By the time you have corrected all the errors you have in the pond, the next will be to make profit to sustain the business. It is unwise. I have seen people do it, that when they stock fish, anytime they want to eat, they will go and remove the fish there. When you are doing it, you are jeopardizing the business, because automatically you won't be able to have a record of that business. So the best you can do for yourself is, if you like fish, but it is a business that you set out that this is my business, you can actually create a small pond by the side, then put some inside that pond and call those ones house expenses. So you don't calculate any expenses you are making for the main one to those ones. So those ones don't form part of your expenses. I hope and I believe that we get this. So I would like us to carefully listen again. You can watch the video again from beginning so that you understand it. If you don't understand it, please drop in the comment section. And if you want me to break it further, I will gladly do that. I am bringing up this because there are people, many people don't understand what it means to make profit in the business. So it's not everything, every cash that is in your hand after sales is profit. It is not. But sometimes you can be lucky. At your first instance, you cancel all your debts. If you have excess, you can decide to throw in the capital allowance once and remove it, and know that the second, third, any time that you come, you won't have any expenses on that capital allowance. But if you do so, do not say, my profit has been depleted. No, it is a choice that you decided to do, so that you'll be able to see what happens next. Because in this thing, we have to learn always to improve what we already know and do more. So until I come your way next time, I still remain yours, Noel Oge of Let Us Farm. Remember, like I said, if you're having challenges in your farm, simply do a 2 to 3 minute video and send to 081 353 48909. I will pick it up from there. And for any reason, we are not forming any WhatsApp group. So if there's anything like that, kindly discard that.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.